Okay, we're starting to get critical mass, so I think we'll start in just a minute. I don't know about everyone else today, but I need a cup of coffee the size of my head today, so. Thank you for the one laugh reaction. Everyone else is not on video.
Hey, morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, Chintan. All right, I think we have enough people to go ahead and get started today. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the October community call. It is our first call of Q4. And a reminder, if you're not already part of our Discord, that is where a lot of our community involvement happens. If you have a question or you get stuck on anything, putting it in the Discord is the best way to get eyes on it from the whole team. And so I'll put that in the chat right now. And the rest of the community. Sometimes the community helps out as well and gets you unstuck. So this month we've had a lot of great public workshops at conferences like Tech Exchange. We actually have one today at PyTorch, and next week at ODSC West. So if you're not able to make any of those in person, I'm also going to put the link in the chat where you can do an at-home workshop if you would like, but that guides you through how to make an agent in the BAI framework. So I will put that link in the chat below. But with that being said, I will also get started on what we're going to cover today. And if you have a topic that you would like to talk about or questions that you have been holding on to throughout the month, feel free to raise your hand. This is a pretty informal call, so you don't need to wait to the end, but I will open it up at the end for Q&A. But if you have a question throughout for any of the speakers or presenters today, just raise your hand and we'll definitely get your questions answered. So I'll kick us off and I'll highlight some of the community contributions this month, and then we'll hear from the team on updates on the framework and the platform. And then again, I'll just open it up for some last minute Q&A. But I really want to put a round of applause for our community members this month. You had the most PRs so far and community contributions so far. So that is great to see. We're a growing community. And it's proven so with more PRs every month. So that is a good sign. So keep contributing, and you're here. So that's definitely one step of the contribution pipeline. So the first highlight that I want to share this month is not quite a PR, but a company that's called Lunal actually deployed the BAI platform in a trusted execution environment with zero config. So I'm going to pull that up on my screen quickly so you can actually see what that looks like. That's not it, but here it is. So if you think it doesn't look that different or different at all than the BAI platform, you would be correct because it is a deployment of the BAI platform running in a trusted execution environment. So in this case, it has end-to-end encryption on everything that is being ran, including the inference. So I want to say thank you to Amin Assad for sending me this very cool demo, and it's a functional deployment of the platform. Or it should be. Let's see. We do something live, you never know. Tell me hello. And they have their options here that you can choose. And it is taking a second. But it is working. Maybe some okay, it did work. Maybe some latency issues, but it did work. So that's pretty cool because this is all encrypted. So to my knowledge, this is the first completely end-to-end encrypted deployment of the platform. And if you want to check them out, I'm also going to put them in here's both the link to the demo that you can play with yourself and the link to their GitHub in the chat below. So the second one that I'll bring up is the IBM Skills Network has actually offered a new course, and this course is completely free to the public. It's multi-agent, multi-tool system designed for complex tasks. And they actually use BAI in this course to help build the agents. So I want to say thank you to Victor, who authored the course and included BAI as examples. And again, I'm just going to put that in the chat. So if you want to take this course and learn how to use BAI at the same time, this is a good opportunity to do so. So that's it for my short highlights for this month for community updates. But before I pass it off to the platform and framework team to do their updates, I just wanted to introduce our team member, Eden. Eden is going to take over hosting this call for me as I have to drop for the PyTorch conference. So thanks, everybody. I'll pass it off to Eden and Tomasz to go over the updates.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you. I think we're going to first start with the framework updates if Tomas D wants to step in or Fred.
Yeah, I think that I can get started and tell you what is new in the framework because it's been a while since our last community call. So let me share my screen. And actually, this time I will share my browser to go through the changelog.md, which is part of our repository where you can basically find everything. So if something stops working, the best way to figure out what is happening is to go to the changelog.md where you can see what has changed. And so since our last meeting, we released Runables. So what's that? So basically Runables is our base building block for classes that can be run. So for instance, agent is something that can be run, or chat model is something that can be run workflow, etc. And we did that to kind of unify what's the input and output of such functions so that you can easily compose and build bigger workflows easily. And, so the changelog contains a migration guide, how this can be done. We also unified some typings so that they are more unified, etc. And in addition, we were working on our adapters as it is kind of crucial for us. So for instance, we added a form extension to the framework. So now you can build forms within the serve module in the framework so that you can easily like build your agent and deploy it to the platform without using the BI SDK and just using the framework itself. We also added support for exposing agents as MCP servers. That's something that was missing back then. We are constantly updating our like adapters for A2A as it is evolving rapidly. So we are up to speed with them. The Watsonix tool call streaming changed, so we made an update to kind of fix that. We added a LangChain model integration, as LangChain has tons of different providers that one can use. And it's obviously better if we add them, but there are more things that then, so that you can easily now use that chat model like bridge, let's say, to bring some provider from LangChain. We added and handled some bug fixes in various places. We can talk about agents, we can call about chat models and providers. So for instance, with the platform, there is a proxy for chat models so that the proxy uses internally, I don't know, Grok, Watsonix. It depends on your choice. And we had to handle the tool choice support. So because the requirement agent in the framework is kind of powerful, but it relies on structured decoding that might not be supported for certain providers. So now we added and improved the way we polyfill those behaviors, and we ensure that this is compatible with the platform. And that's actually a big lift for us, because now you can use the serve module to expose an agent to the platform without specifying any provider but BI platform chat model, which basically picks the one from the UI, so that you can really use the power of the platform without using it as a UI. There is a new retry mechanism for embeddings and for the chat model. We also changed in the way how you can do the structure decoding. As we migrated to runnables, you now need to, there is just one method instead of create and create structure, so it's more unified. Now you don't, now we are validating the output from the chat model against the provided schema, but it's optional. You can pass a flag that disables this validation, and you can do it on your own. So that's kind of cool to be aware of. We handled cases where MCP tool were hanging. So for instance, if the MCP tool were trying to connect to server that is down, the error was not propagated. Now it is. We added support for transformers, for the transformers library. So there is a new chat model like adapter for that. So you can play with your local models, and you can easily use that adapter for that. And the adapter actually supports, it's like very high level. So you can pass, for instance, LoRa ID and use fine tuning. And we updated recommend agent to be like more stable. We did some crazy optimizations under the hood, but without any breaking changes. Now you can do handoff tool can now accept any runnable, so you can finally do handoff tool to pure chat model. So back then you had to use to do the handoff just to an agent. Now you can do to basically whatever you like. We improved some serializations internally. And now, and that was there for a while, it's streaming for the recommend agent. That's kind of a tricky one, because the recommend agent always produce a structured output as the final answer is actually a tool call. So we managed to do that, and actually we also managed to extract that functionality into a middleware that can be basically reused for a plain chat model. So as I will show you in a few moments. So this is kind of cool. That it was something that people were seeking. So it's now available in that version. And you can also now work with more modalities. So back then we were just supporting text and images. Now you can pass an arbitrary files, and we will handle them properly. And finally, I would like to mention that we added like run context for the A2A server adapter. So if you are exposing your agents or runnables as A2A server, you might be wondering, how can I like use the raw A2A context under the hood? So now it's accessible, and it's part of our examples. And finally, we managed to make a documentation page for the middlewares. So middleware, or you might have heard of events, emitters, etc., but actually, which was kind of crucial. It always been, but it wasn't documented until now. So now there is a dedicated page that explains the whole concept. What is an event? What is an emitter? How it connects to the run context. So that if you, for instance, run agent, what does it mean that you can do the chaining via on and pass middleware or some callbacks, how it really works and how powerful that is. There are a bunch of like examples showing firstly, like describing those models and then showing like differences, for instance, how events can be gathered. So whether you are listening to events on the root level or on an instance or for a concrete run, how you can use internal lifecycle of run context to do some things like passing or modifying the input and output of a given function, or for instance, how to prevent the given tool or agent from an execution. So let me show, for instance, this example, which is a very easy one, where you run a large language model, you listen on a new token. So whether if there is a new token, our callback gets called. And in this case, this function takes the event data from the chat model and some metadata. And because we are using that run context, we can check whether the given token is valid. And if it's not, we can, for instance, abort the execution and with some custom error message. Or for instance, if we run the model, we can change its temperature to whatever we'd like. And so this callback gets called before the chat model start method gets called. And you can do very powerful stuff with that. But as you can hook to an arbitrary event, you can pass your own data to the context, propagate it, and change the behavior of your model. So same goes with explaining how to bundle multiple handlers together to middleware that can be reused, as we are now having two very general middlewares in the framework. One is for global trajectory, so for debugging stuff. So if you run your agent, you just pass that middleware and it's gonna log every step, every intermediate step to the console. Now there is a tool called streaming that allows you to retrieve like partial tool calls from the given chat model as it goes, as it generates a tokens. And then we updated our glossary so that you can easily find all events that can be emitted from our built-in tools and like components, etc. So I really recommend checking out this new middleware section as it finally depicts the core functionality of the framework itself. We have just a little sneak peek in our examples where you can just find them over there. There are a few. One is for instance, content filtering. So let's imagine that you may have an agent and you want to filter some inappropriate language with some customer response. So if the user pass something that we don't like, we can just catch that and force the LLM to produce an output based on our intentions. And this middleware can be taken as is. It can be passed to whatever we'd like. So it can be a model, it can be an arbitrary agent, and so on. And the implementation is actually not that hard. At a bind, sorry, you just bind to a start of the given thing, and in the given handler, you so on start event, you just check whether the input contains a band content, and if so, you just prevent the execution of that thing and pass your own output. It can be modified to let the LLM to generate a response so that it can actually generate a response because some rule was violated. And that's it. And maybe let me show you one more example, which is about it tries to handle situation where if you have multi-agent system, so that you via handoff tools, very typical situation is that those outputs that you are passing, to agent B and C and vice versa, they are kind of huge. So what you can do is, for instance, to have an idea that you don't want to actually return full results, but you can just return like pointers, references to such results, so that the output of the first agent is not gonna be like the whole response, but just this thing, like just the reference. And then when you call the second agent, you can just replace the reference with the real content. So with middleware, it's kind of easy. You just hijack the invocation of the handoff tool. So you hijack to the start event and to the success event. In the start event, you basically take the last message and replace references with real values from your store. And on the success invocation, you just save that output of that handoff tool to your like local store and replace the result of that tool with just that reference to the result, so with something like that. And finally, you just do the same thing with the final answer. And this is something that seems like impossible if you take any framework, because you would need to go into that source code of that agent and modify it over there. But with the middleware concept, you can just do it right away. And this is why it's so powerful. And finally, like closing note on this one is that we are still working on our new workflows. We are exploring more possibilities how it can be done. We kind of like the proposal that we did, but we found that in some cases it might be too complicated to stay on the track. So we are exploring how it can be even better and even more interesting for you guys. So, and maybe one more thing, and it is about creating a new module, not module, but new adapter for our serve module. And this is going to be OpenAI chat completion endpoint. We actually have something like that for watsonx orchestrate, but we are also about to call it just chat completion and responses API, which is kind of cool. And OpenAI says that it will suppress the old chat completion API. And I think that's it from my side. So thank you. And back to you, Eden.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tomas. Super exciting updates. And thank you to Fred and Jenna. I think they shared some additional links in the chat if people want to check out the middleware updates for themselves. For now, I think I'll pass it on to Jenna and Tomas W to give some platform updates.
Thanks, Eden. I'll start. Let me just share my screen. All right, I'll walk you through the work we've been working on in the past month. It's been quite some major updates, I would say, that we managed to release in the platform. They're mostly touching the UI, but we also did something that is more on like a CLI level right now, but it's coming to the UI as well. So let me just start with the things that are new, and then I'll briefly just cover what's coming up pretty soon. So the first big addition to the platform is a session history. It's a very frequently requested feature because usually you really want users to make sure they can go back to their conversation. So now it's possible in the UI. But apart from this being available as a feature in the UI, it's also very handy for the agent builders, because right now you can actually store whatever you need in the history of the conversation right in your agent, which gives you full control over what's being stored and what's not mandatory for the conversation. So when your agent is stopped for whatever reason, or it's just like, it's just being stopped because it's no longer being used after some time, then you can still get back to the conversation because it's stored. So the session history, the way it works is that there's a context store. You can use in-memory implementation if you want, but you can also use the platform context store, which makes sure that everything that you store is going to get stored in the platform, and therefore it persists even when the agent goes offline. So super handy. You can see it in the UI. Keep in mind, you need to take care of the storing of your messages. So usually the pattern, it's very well described in documentation, but the pattern usually is like whatever gets to input, you want to store it in the history. Whatever goes to output, you also want to make sure it's stored in the history. So that's the first feature that I wanted to introduce. The next one is the agent secret. So the big part of this is a GUI feature that allows to store some secret values, usually with API keys or something like that. As an agent builder, what you can do is just use the A2A service dependency extension, which takes care of requiring the secret. So basically, what you're gonna do is, I wanna, like, my agent depends on API key for Tably, for example, right? So you would just like offload that responsibility onto the end user to provide a key in a secure way. So whenever they start agent, they would be, the modal would pop up where they can fill in the secret, or they can just, decide to ignore it for now, because as all the extensions, the service dependency injection extensions are optional, so user don't need to provide it. And that means that if that will happen, your agent can still work, it can still function, and it can decide that it would only need a secret when it's absolutely necessary throughout the conversation. So you can either request it optionally before the agent start, or you can, as an agent builder, you can request it throughout the conversation. So the good thing about the secrets is that it's getting stored in the platform, so in a secure way. So whenever the user provides a secret, they may want to, store it, so the next time they would use the agent, they don't need to populate the data again. So that's the agent secret feature. Jenna will show you the demo of that. I think it's pretty cool. Let's cover the next feature that we added to the platform, which is the agent settings. So the agent settings is another extension that we introduced. So, the usage is very similar to other extensions. The way this works is that in the implementation of your agent, you can define what are the settings that you would like to use as a configuration for the run of your agent. The thing is that the settings can be changed throughout the conversation. So, for example, if you have a toggle which allow user to provide a Boolean flag whether the thinking is enabled or disabled, for one turn in your conversation, it can be enabled. For the other, it might be disabled when user decides that they would like to disable it. So that's one of the examples that how you can use that this feature. When you get a value, you get it gets populated in the in your agent, and then you can adapt the implementation on the fly. So that's the agent settings. Last but not least is server-side GitHub builds. This is really interesting. So this is a feature that allows you to build your agent straight from GitHub, right in the platform. So this is something that used to be possible as well using the BEAI add command, but the limitation is that it was not possible to use in like cluster environment, obviously. So locally it worked, but yeah, it was not that reliable. So what we decided is to introduce a reliable agent builder. We use Canico for this, that handles the whole agent building process for you straight in the cluster, right? So it doesn't really depend on your Docker engine in your operating system or something like that. It just works out of the box. And it may look like it's not that important, but quite the contrary, because this allows us in the future, which is basically the thing we'll focus on, hopefully, by the next community call. But it will allow us to actually enable users to provide the GitHub URL links straight in the GUI so that they can add their agents whenever they want. No more, changes of the Helm chart just to make sure to get the agents in. It would just work through the GUI. You would only need to specify the GitHub URL. It would just pull it and spin it up. So that's the server-side GitHub builds. Radek will show you how it works. Let's discuss what's coming up soon. So I think one of the very exciting features that is coming hopefully pretty soon is box alt connector. So the way this will work is, you as a user, you'll be able to actually connect your Box account to the platform, and then we'll expose the MCP server to your agents. So it will be a very simple way how to actually integrate the Box integration. Think of, you want to drop in a file from Box instead of from your local computer. So this is very, very interesting feature that's coming up soon. Another one is we already have user authentication, but unfortunately, I will not demo it today. Neither I want to talk about this because this is still missing the documentation. This is our top priority. We'll be working on the documentation to make sure you guys can set it up by yourself. So the user authentication done but not documented, but the documentation is coming up soon. And obviously, as already mentioned, you'll be able to dynamically add agents via GUI. I think that's very, very nice feature. A lot of people requested this, so will allow us some really cool use cases. So that's pretty much it for me. Don't forget, if you have some questions, make sure you are on our Discord. And also, we would like to, shape all the ideas with you. So if you have some good ideas, questions, whatever, just make sure you use GitHub discussions. And yeah, we'll make sure that we'll consider everything. So that's it from me. And now I'm handing the mic over to Radek to show you, the server-side builds.
Hi, everyone. So let's get to it. So I hope you can see my screen. So server-side builds is a new experimental feature currently that has already been released. So you can already try it out. What you need to do locally to enable this is to pass in a couple of parameters to the BI platform start to enable the builds and the local Docker registry where we will store the images. So this is by this set provider builds enabled true and local Docker registry enabled true. I already have the platform running, so I will just show you the command directly. So let's say I have a GitHub repository here that I would like to build. What I need to do is copy the URL. The repository, this is just our platform template for the agents. The only thing that is required is the Docker file and the agent compatible with the platform. So let me just quickly show you how I can add this agent. So yeah, I can use this server-side build command with the repository URL. And if I run this, it will start building the agent inside a job. If you're curious, I have like the internals opened up here. This is the platform Kubernetes deployment that we are running locally. And here is the job that has like a couple of steps that need to be done. So the first one was to clone the repository. Then we are building the image, and I'm also streaming the logs to the user. And then, the agent needs to actually be executed and mutated afterwards. And that's it. Now I can use this command to add the agent to the platform. Oh, sorry, there is extra space here. This. And now my example agent is here, and I can run it BI run example agent. To simplify this process, we are adding in the next release, we will be adding --add switch so that you don't have to add the agent manually. And we are also adding a Dockerfile specifier, which you can use to specify path to your Dockerfile, because, for example, some repositories tend to name Docker files as container files, so you can specify this here. Or if you have a monorepo setup, then you would have like multiple agents in a repository, and you can specify the Dockerfile as path to agent, like this, for example. And yeah, so the main purpose of this feature was to enable us to build the agents actually in the cluster in the UI. So all of this is like server side, and it's quite configurable. The configuration is pretty sophisticated. What you can do with it, we actually have Kaneko as the default backend, but we also support BuildKit as another build backend, and you can configure your registry. So this is like this will concern you if you are the cluster administrator trying to deploy the BI platform. So if you are just a regular user and want to use this on local machine, you don't have to pay attention to this. But I find it quite interesting to know the internals. So you can specify the registry. Here goes your credentials to the, for example, Docker container, Docker Hub, or another registry like IBM Cloud Registry. And you can also configure what kind of security context do you want to use for your builder, because the builders, they tend to run a little bit more privileged than normal containers. And for that reason, we also like support builds in external clusters. So you can like from one cluster connect a second cluster, and you can build the agents there. For example, if you have like a production more secure cluster, and then you have another one separate for just the builds where we are allowed to be a little bit insecure. So that's the provider builds, and also you can connect your GitHub repository. So what I just showed you, that was server-side build of a public GitHub github.com repository. But for example, you can add personal access tokens, or you can add even GitHub applications. And this will allow you to access private repositories or your enterprise company repositories. So that was it for the configuration. And last thing I wanted to show you is a hint for the UI. Let me just quickly show you the UI. What you can look forward, and that's this button, Add New Agent, which uses this server-side build feature. And here you can add the GitHub repository the same way as you would in the command line. But this is kind of fresh out of the oven, so we will show this properly in the next community meeting.
Thank you, Radek. Great demo. So now, please, Jenna, if you can show some of the UI for the new features we've worked on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tomas and Radek. I'm very excited about the server-side builds. It's going to make it super easy for us to add agents through the UI and not have to do that through the CLI. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I have two agents I'm going to show in order to demonstrate what Tomas had mentioned. So the first one I'm going to run is I have a SERPer search agent. And this agent, I'm registering now to the GUI, is designed to show off the runtime secrets feature. So if we look over here on the info panel, you see that this agent requires a SERPer API key. I can add it at this point here, or I can just ignore this for now and just get to using the agent, and it will ask me at the point that it needs the API key during runtime. So if I do one of the suggested questions here, one that I know is going to require some sort of internet search, it's going to stop me and ask me for my API key. And so that's when I can provide it. And then it continues on with its run here. So you can see it received the API key from the user, and now it's initializing. I'm using the requirement agent from the BAI framework, and it's starting up that agent with the SERPer search now that it has the appropriate API key. You can see that it's querying using latest developments in quantum computing 2025. That's what it's sending out to the SERPer search tool. It found 8 results. And I'm using Olama here, so it's a little bit slow, but here we go. All right, so then here are the results, and it was able to access the SERPer API or since I gave it the code. So that is the first UI feature. And then I will stop this agent. And let's go over to my other agent, which this one is our showcase agent that kind of demonstrates several of the features here. So the first one is the agent configurable settings. So this allows the developer to define whatever they want. There's two types of settings that you can define, either a Boolean or a toggle for turning something on and off, or you can do a single select. So in this case, I have thinking as something you can turn on or off, and basically what that does in the agent configuration is either remove the thinking tool from the agent or provides it. Same with web search. So this is my method of allowing the end user to be able to decide what tools that they want to use within the agent. And then I also have response style. So I have it defaulted to just standard response, but if somebody wants more detail or more concise, they can toggle the setting here. So I can actually block the agent from being able to do a web search. And so if I ask a question like this, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't tested this, but you can see that tools here, it's just provided the agent with the think tool, so it does not have the ability to call out to the web search tool. And so it's going to just rely on this model to answer the question without having any access to web search. I also have enabled the streaming mechanism. That's a new great feature that was implemented in the framework. So you can see that it kind of types out the response. It's a nice user experience there. But yeah, so you can see it didn't use the web search tool because I disabled that in the settings. And then the last thing I wanted to show you all is that we have the session history. So you can see my little testing around here, a bunch of threads. But the nice thing is you can see which agents they're associated with. You can delete sessions, manage them in that way. And you can revisit previous conversations if you want to continue out on some path that you had going. So it's all saved in that regard. And then one other feature I'll call out on the UI is we now have this share agent at the top right here. So that feature basically just gives you the ability, once you have a hosted instance of the platform, you're able to click that and it copies the link to the agent. So you're able to grab the link for agents and share them around with people in your company or whatever. So that's another cool feature that we have. All right. And that is all for UI demonstration.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you so much,
Gr-
Jenna.
Great
Yeah.
demo. I have one question maybe that will also interest some other people. So I'm assuming the showcase agent is publicly available. The source code is publicly available on GitHub.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. So maybe if you can just drop it in the chat because I think it looks really cool. It uses a lot of very cool features. So it is a great inspiration for the others how to build real agents that really leverages all the functionality of the platform. So that's really nice.
Absolutely.
And I
Thank
guess
you.
that thank you, Jenna. So that's pretty much it from the platform. So now yeah. I guess I'm just giving a word back to Eden if you want to moderate the questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Tomas. Super exciting updates on everyone. So if anyone has any questions now, we'll open up the floor either to Tomas, Radek, either other Tomas, Jenna. This was a great community call with full of very, very exciting updates. So we could wait a few minutes. If people have questions in the chat, I'm happy to ask for them as well. Or you can just raise your hand. Yes, Chintin.
Hey guys, so just wanted to ask how do I provide support for uh, Granite 4 that has been recently released? So I see when we do BI platform model setup, it asks for setting up for Granite 3.3, but what if I want to provide 4?
And what model inference provider are you using?
So it's IBM Watson X.
Watson X. Okay,
Yeah.
and 4 is something that's supported by Watson X?
Yeah, it is.
So you should be
Yeah.
able to follow the model. Is it, correct me if I'm wrong, Radek and Tomas, but you should, there, in order to configure a Watson X model, there's a little walkthrough. You do model setup, select Watson X, or is it
Yeah, I
more?
guess exactly. I guess that if you just like use the Watson X in the provider selection throughout the BI model setup, it should list you the Granite 4. As long as it's available, it should be there.
Okay. I'm not sure how to check if it's available because we are using in our project, and since I'm not using this agent through BI platform, I have configured it on my environment variables and it's working. So currently I'm using Granite 4H small model for inferencing. So
Yeah. Maybe this is a better question for Tomáš Dvořák. If you know, like if it's available on Watson X as an OpenAI endpoint, I guess it should be, right? The Granite 4.
I think it's in there. Yeah, I tested and it was working, at least for me, but it can vary from region to region. So I would check out the UI, and if it's there, then it should be accessible via the OpenAI completion endpoint. So if it's not listed here, then it's not available.
So what I tried is the BI model setup in the platform. I provided the credentials for the EU region. And then if I answer no, like it asks you if you want to use the recommended model. If I say no, it will give me a list of models that are available. So I should be able to pick this one, Granite 4. Let me search. Yeah, that's the only Granite 4 that's in there. Let me see if it works.
Yeah.
Yes, seems to be working. So that should do.
nice.
Yeah. Also, Chintan, if you set it up, if you like set up a different model as a primary model, you can still in the LLM extension, you can still define that you would like to use as long as the other model is available through the provider, like for example, Granite 4, if you specify it in the LLM extension as a demand, then it's gonna be populated in the UI and you'll be able to select it as long as it's available in the provider.
Right.
So you don't necessarily need to set it up as a primary, or I think you call it primary model. But if you don't, if you have a different model as a primary one, then obviously you need to specify which you would like to use in your agent implementation.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. And yeah, thank you, Jenna, for sharing that link in the chat. Any other questions? We'll leave a few more minutes. People want to raise their hand or ask questions in the chat. Lots of new topics to discuss. I'm sure someone's got something. Yes, another one, Chintan, go for it.
Yeah. So I have been using Think Tool a lot, and I see there is a difference in the amount of time taken to generate the response. So when we add a Think Tool, it significantly increases the time. Um so from what I understand is we require Think Tool when we want LLM to decide which tool it wants to call, right? And for this thing to happen, Think tool gets executed in some time, but then when it has taken the decision to call some tool with some required inputs to generate that input, it takes a lot of time. Sometimes this happens, and then I see a huge input that gets generated, and most of the part is a repeated phrase of it.
Yeah.
I've seen this happening when I add Think tool.
And did you try to enable global trajectory middleware, or at least see those intermediate steps? So what might be happening is that the tool is being called in a row for 6 times or so, and that will cause the delay. If it gets called just once, that there shouldn't be any delay at all, or just a very small one. But some models tend to call it repeat multiple times, basically, for no reason. So that might be the case.
Right. So I did enable the global trajectory and I could see the logs. So Think tool was called only once. But after Think tool gets executed, I don't see any log for some more time. And then for the next tool that is required to call, that requires an input. So for example, a string query, right? So that a huge string query is passed into a tool, and that
Okay.
has a repeated phrase. But there is no sequence. Think tool is not being called in sequence. So I see we also pass a flag, consecutive allowed false. So I do pass that flag. That flag is false. So
Yep.
I'm not sure
So
how to fix this.
in that case, I found that some vision models like Big Llama can do this for some reason, that it's like too verbose. So I would try. So just create a Think tool and update its description. It's just a tool, and the description is a public attribute of that class. So just try to play with the description a little bit to nudge the model to perform better a little bit, or to use it more wisely, and that could help definitely. Or I don't want to say like don't use it, but it depends. Obviously, that it can be conditional enabled. So you can, for instance, use that middleware to detect whether the input requires some thinking, or if the model can do it straight away. If so, then you don't need you can keep the tool disabled, and otherwise you can just allow that. And I would also encourage you to update to the latest version, as we seen that in some cases the tools might not get hidden from the system prompt. So just try this as well, and if this persists, just open an issue and we can continue over there for sure.
Thank you so much.
Maybe one more thing. Actually, Think Tool is just very. If you look at the if you check out the implementation, it's kind of very like straightforward. There is no magic in it. So maybe just the input schema has a thought and one more property called like next steps. So
Next
you can
step.
try to kind of duplicate it too, and just update the schema, maybe remove the next step or something like that. It's just a tool that forces the model to produce more tokens and hopefully make the response better.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'll let you know, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. We have a few more minutes left. If anyone else has anything, got the experts in the room with you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I think we can wrap up and give everyone 2 minutes back. So thank you so much to all of our presenters and everyone for your thoughtful questions as well. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye.